рост в этом году 30%. Рост в этом году 30%.
Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev announced that Russia will construct a small nuclear power plant in Uzbekistan, marking the first such project in post-Soviet Central Asia. The announcement was made during a meeting with visiting Russian President Vladimir Putin.
This is one of the first visits after the elections, including procedures related to the formation of the government. It was no coincidence that such a representative delegation arrived to Uzbekistan. This underlines our special nature of both strategic partnership and allied relations.
Putin stated that Russia would contribute $400 million to a joint investment fund of $500 million to support projects in Uzbekistan.
In general, the 15.5% that we occupy in your trade turnover is a good result. And I am sure it will be more, keeping in mind the pace during the first quarter of this year. Even according to our fairly strict statistics, more than 20% is a very good result. And thanks to your efforts, thanks to the efforts of the government of Uzbekistan, our trade and economic relations are diversifying. And this has good prospects, especially in the field of industrial cooperation and high technology. It is most important.
Mirziyoyev also expressed interest in purchasing more oil and gas from Russia, reversing the long-standing trend of Moscow importing hydrocarbons from Central Asia.
Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, once again, welcome to Uzbekistan. We have been preparing for this visit very thoroughly and for a long time, and I think it will actually be historic. I am very grateful that one of your first visits is to Uzbekistan. This is a great respect for Uzbekistan and the multinational people of Uzbekistan. I am very grateful to you for this.
Documents from the Kremlin reveal that the Russian state nuclear company Rosatom will build up to 6 nuclear reactors in Uzbekistan, each with a capacity of 55 megawatts. This is a much smaller project compared to the 2.4 gigawatt plant agreed upon in 2018, which is yet to be finalized. If implemented, this agreement will highlight Russia's capability to export not only energy, but also high-tech products to new markets in Asia, especially as the West increases pressure on it through sanctions. Currently, none of the 5 former Soviet Central Asian republics have nuclear power plants. Both Uzbekistan and neighboring Kazakhstan, which are uranium producers, have long indicated a need for nuclear power due to their growing economies. Putin also announced a significant increase in gas deliveries to Uzbekistan. Despite having their own gas and oil resources, the region's countries face energy shortages, making Russia's energy projects crucial.
The strategic direction is, in any case, one of the most important is energy. Our country reliably and on favorable terms supplies the Uzbek economy with hydrocarbon fuel, thereby promoting the stable functioning of energy-intensive industries, agriculture, and public utilities.
Simultaneously, Russian forces began the first stage of nuclear exercises on May 21st, ordered by President Putin to simulate the preparation for launching tactical nuclear weapons. The Russian Defense Ministry linked these exercises to militant statements by Western officials, including French President Emmanuel Macron, which it claims pose security threats to Russia. Nuclear analysts believe these exercises are intended as a warning from Putin to discourage the West from getting more involved in the war in Ukraine. While Western countries have provided weapons and intelligence to Kyiv, they have refrained from deploying troops.
Russia has been regularly conducting exercises of strategic nuclear forces and non-strategic nuclear deterrent forces. The only difference is that after deploying part of the non-strategic nuclear potential on the territory of Belarus, we are doing this together with our Belarusian allies. This is the first. Secondly, we treat the security of Belarus in exactly the same way as we treat the security of the Russian Federation. And this is probably the key element of our cooperation in this area. As for compliance with Russia's obligations in this area, we fully comply with all our obligations in the field of nuclear weapons.
The Kremlin criticized NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg on May 27th for implying that alliance members should permit Ukraine to use Western weapons to strike deep within Russia.
Then it's for allies to decide on restrictions on the weapons they deliver to Ukraine. That's not a NATO decision, it's a decision made by individual allies. Individual allies have made different decisions. Some allies have no restrictions. Other allies have imposed different restrictions. My message is that I think the time has come to consider some of these restrictions.
The Kremlin stated that this demonstrates NATO's direct confrontation with Russia. Stoltenberg suggested in an interview with The Economist that NATO countries providing weapons to Ukraine should lift their restrictions on using them against military targets in Russia. NATO is escalating the conflict, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told the Russian daily Izvestia in response to Stoltenberg's comments. NATO is increasing the degree of escalation. NATO is flirting with military rhetoric and falling into military ecstasy. The Russian military knew what to do. Vladimir Solovyov, a Russian propagandist and supporter of President Vladimir Putin, declared on a recent episode of his television show that nuclear war is inevitable. Earlier, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov warned that while Moscow's nuclear war policy hasn't changed, the situation is fluid. When asked if Russia's nuclear doctrine would be updated to include the possibility of a preventive strike, Ryabkov told reporters on May 9th that the doctrine and basics of state policy in the area of nuclear deterrence explicitly state the possibilities for the first use of nuclear weapons. The doctrine and basics of state policy in the area of nuclear deterrence explicitly state the possibilities for the first use of nuclear weapons. At the moment, nothing has changed in this regard, but the situation itself is changing. As a result, the way basic documents in this field relate to the needs of maintaining our security is constantly analyzed. Russia's assertive actions in the realms of nuclear weapons and power generation follow Putin's re-election amidst an ongoing active conflict with Ukraine. This demonstrates Putin's determination to respond to every anti-Russian comment and action from the West, while also bolstering Russia's internal economy and infrastructure.